Russian airstrikes have begun in Syria. Vladimir Putin was given the green light this morning and wasted no time sending warplanes to target ISIS militants. In Toronto, representatives from Uber are meeting with Toronto City Council and local cab companies to discuss the fate of the popular ride-sharing app. And congratulations are in order for Toronto Zoo's giant panda, Shun. Zookeepers were thrilled to announce a second heartbeat was heard during an ultrasound. Hi, and welcome to Humber News. I'm Tanya Veneri, coming to you from our newsroom here at Humber College North Campus. The conflict in Syria has a new complication today. Russia has conducted its first airstrike in the country, and the international community is weighing in. Russia's defense minister says jets are carrying out targeted airstrikes against the militant group ISIS. Earlier today, the Russian parliament voted unanimously in favor of beginning military action in Syria to support President Bashar al-Assad in the UN. Security Council, the French foreign minister, says the Russian airstrike has not been confirmed to have hit ISIS targets. Elsewhere in Syria, the U.S. military has carried out airstrikes on ISIS targets in Aleppo. Russia says it is willing to work alongside the U.S. However, the international community says Russia must meet requirements before it can join on. The G7 has announced a substantial financial contribution to support the Syrian refugee crisis. A German-led initiative of G7 nations has allocated nearly $2 billion for United Nations aid. The German foreign minister says the money will go toward humanitarian organizations like the UN Refugee Agency and the World Food Programme. The money will help host countries bordering Syria, such as Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon. Back home now, ministers from 12 Pacific Rim countries are meeting today for a final round of talks on a controversial new trade deal. The Trans-Pacific Partnership talks are going on in Atlanta. The ministers say they hope to have the new pact signed by the end of the week. Yesterday, Canadian dairy farmers protested against the possible deal. They took their cows to Parliament Hill to demonstrate. The new trade deal is expected to have a significant impact on Canada's dairy and automotive industries. Prime Minister Stephen Harper says that he will sign the deal only if it's in the best interest of the Canadian economy. Humber reporters are on the story and will have full details on the show tomorrow. The latest GDP numbers predict that the worst of the Canadian economy's decline is behind us. Economists say the latest market forecast expects a slight growth heading out of a technical recession earlier this year. In local news, Toronto City Council is deciding the fate of the popular ride-sharing app Uber. Today, they voted on whether the app is here to stay. Our reporter, Rebecca Palizo-Malera, has the story.
So we're currently here at the Toronto City Hall, and as you can see, many of the cab drivers and Uber drivers are actually eagerly waiting to see the response on whether or not Uber will continue being a service delivered to those here in the GTA. It's the first time that the app has been brought to the City Council's attention. The ride-sharing app has caused regulatory headaches in the cities around the world. Councillors today are trying to figure out how to regulate Uber and keep the city's taxi industry going well.
We think it's our right to stand against it, so we wanted that only us should be allowed to work in the city and nobody illegal.
Uber reps think it's fair to have the rates regulated.
I just hope that it remains the same as it is now, or even better for everybody, deregulate the cab industry. I don't think that's on the agenda, but I would appreciate if that happened.
Many cab drivers and Uber drivers are still eagerly waiting on a response from City Council on whether or not Uber will continue being a service here for us many Torontonians and many in the GTA. For Toronto Humber News, I'm Rebecca Palosa-Malara.
The parents of the 3 children who were killed in a horrific collision in Vaughan on Sunday say they've been overwhelmed with the abundance of support they are receiving. Jennifer Neville Lake, mother of the 3 children, says she's grateful for all the people who have expressed their condolences. 65-year-old Gary Neville was killed in the crash along with his 3 grandchildren, 9-year-old Daniel Neville Lake, his 5-year-old brother Harry, and 2-year-old sister Millie. Just a day after the collision, a GoFundMe page was set up to support the family. That fund has already raised nearly $190,000. 29-year-old Marco Muzo of King Township is facing 18 charges, including 4 counts of impaired driving causing death. The accused appeared in a Newmarket court on Monday and will be back in court on Friday for a bail hearing. The OPP launched its fall seatbelt blitz today and are on the lookout for offenders across the province. Evan President has the story.
Buckle up, Ontario drivers. The OPP is out in full force over the next few weeks as their annual Fall Seatbelt campaign begins. Car crashes remain the leading cause of injury-related deaths in Ontario, with 42 people killed so far in 2015, up 24% from last year. OPP Constable Carrie Schmidt says although the majority of drivers do use seatbelts, those who don't are putting themselves and others at risk.
And being unrestrained puts not only that person at risk, but anybody else inside the vehicle, because in a collision you're going to get tossed around throughout the compartment, and there's a very good chance you could be ejected as well. If you're in a crash and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you are no longer part of that vehicle.
Schmidt says offenders offer excuses ranging from comfort to distance traveled, and although wearing a seatbelt feels like second nature to most drivers, it wasn't hard to find someone who considers it an inconvenience.
Yeah. Mine, personally, it suffocates you sometimes, so it's nice to not have it on sometimes.
Those few people that are still failing to buckle up are really putting everybody at risk, and there's no reason for that kind of a thing to be happening.
Police say that they're going to be checking on child car seats as well, with an estimated 70% of them being installed incorrectly. If you're caught without a seatbelt, you could face a fine of up to $240 and 2 demerit points. A steep price for sure, but not as steep as your life. Evan Pressament, Humber News.
A hurricane warning is in effect for the central Bahamas as Tropical Storm Joaquin picks up speed. Joaquin is in the third hurricane of the season, and Bahamas residents aren't the only ones at risk. Roads are being shut down in North and South Carolina as heavy rainfall is causing flooding to move inward. Satellite images show Joaquin strengthened east of the Bahamas before a sharp turn north made it parallel to the east coast. Meteorologists say the storm's complex weather patterns are causing uncertainty in the forecasts. To the U.S. now, where the state of Georgia has made history.
On September 30th, 2015, the court-ordered execution of Kelly Renee Gissendaner was carried out in accordance with state law.
Clemency was denied to death row inmate Kelly Gissendaner, and she was executed at midnight at Jackson State Prison in Georgia. She was put on death row in 1997 for the murder of her husband and has avoided her execution several times. She's the first woman to be executed in the United States in 7 decades. Meanwhile, the seamstress who helped 2 convicts escape from jail has been sentenced to up to 7 years in prison.
I'm not a bad person. I clearly made a horrible mistake. I realize I need to be responsible for my actions.
Joyce Mitchell pleaded guilty to helping Richard, Matt, and David Sweat escape from Clinton Correctional Facility in upstate New York in June. According to yahoonews.ca, Mitchell was sentenced to an indeterminate period of incarceration on her charge of promoting prison contraband. First came the car, then came the SUV. Tesla has officially introduced the world to its latest addition to the electric driving revolution, the Model X. The Model X features unique tools for a car strictly powered by an electric battery. It can reach top speeds of 155 miles per hour. Driving clean won't come cheap though. The Model X is estimated to run about $140,000 US. When we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports, and Christina will have your 3-day forecast.
It's a bit too cold to swim today, and it's about to get colder. I'll have your full 3-day forecast after the break.
But for now, we leave you with this. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's new film, The Walk, is making people sick, literally. Audiences in the U.S. are feeling queasy after watching the 3D flick about the daredevil who walked a tightrope between the Twin Towers in 1974. But the special effects may be a little too real. Director Robert Zemeckis says he wanted to give the audience a sense of vertigo while watching. His wish seems to be coming true, and then some. There are reports of a man vomiting after a screening of the film. Fair warning,